It's one of Arizona's proudest achievements. In fact, it's one of America's proudest achievements. And it's the claim to fame of an 11-year-old girl. And it's been ripped away from all of us. On February 18th, 1930, Pluto is discovered. It all begins with Percival Lowell, a well-traveled businessman, mathematician, and diplomat from an elite Boston family who at age 39 decides to dedicate himself to astronomy. With the help of William Pickering, he builds an observatory in Flagstaff, Arizona, 18 years before it becomes the 48th U.S. state. Lowell theorizes that wobbles in the orbits of Uranus and Neptune are caused by a ninth planet. He calculates its approximate location, but dies in 1916 after a 10-year search. The search resumes in 1929 at the observatory. Using Lowell's calculations and the guidance of the 72-year-old Pickering, astronomer Clyde Tombaugh discovers the tiny distant planet through the use of photographic plates and a blink comparator. His finding is confirmed by other astronomers and is announced to the world on March 13, 1930, which would have been Lowell's 75th birthday. To the chagrin of many, in 2006, Pluto is reclassified as a dwarf planet. Stay tuned, because coming up, we'll find out how Pluto got its name. We'll find out why it got demoted. We'll learn some more fun facts about Pluto. But first, a bit more on the discovery. So this astronomer, Clyde Tombaugh, he uses the Lowell Observatory's astrograph, which is a special telescope that takes photos. And he used this to take photos of the area where, according to Lowell's observations and calculations, the area where Pluto should be, where this ninth planet should be. So he takes these photos of the same section of sky and does this several nights apart. He then uses this blink comparator, which causes you to be able to switch between the two photographs at a very rapid pace, like back and forth between the two photographs. And any object that is super far away, like a star, is going to stay in the same place. But an object that's moving and that's closer to us would end up moving back and forth between two different spots on those two photos. And that's what happened. And so that's how Tombaugh discovered Pluto. Okay. Now, how did Pluto lose its place among the 9 planets? Now 8 planets. Well, the International Astronomical Union has 3 criteria that it uses in order to determine that something is a planet. Number 1, it has to orbit the sun. Check. Pluto's okay on that one. Number 2, it has to have sufficient mass to become nearly round. All right, check. We're good on that one. Number 3 is where the problem is. In order to be considered a planet, this planetary body must clear the neighborhood around its orbit. And this is something that Pluto has not been able to do. So let's talk a little bit more about this. So Pluto's orbit has always been kind of weird compared to the other planets. It's not on the same plane. Like all the other planets orbit the sun on the same plane, and Pluto's got this sort of like funky, its own deal. All right. Not only that, it actually crosses Neptune's orbit. So there are times when Neptune is farther away from the sun and farther, therefore, away from us than is Pluto. In fact, this happened quite recently, from 1979 to 1999. That for that 20-year period, Neptune was actually farther away than Pluto. All of that, I guess, is excusable technically, but it kind of factors into everything. In 1978, one of Pluto's moons was discovered, called Charon, after the guy down in the underworld there with... It's a good name. Anyway, we won't get into that. It's discovered. And this actually, this discovery, somehow, people that know more about math than I do are able to figure out that this means that Pluto's gravitational influence on Uranus and Neptune is actually negligible. It's not what Lowell and others had thought exactly. Okay? In 1989, the Voyager 2 space probe passes right near Neptune. And because of this, we're able to get a much more accurate assessment of the mass of Neptune. And so therefore, these perceived wobbles that Lowell was using in his calculations and that others had also observed, and this made Lowell think that there had to be a planet there. Actually, these perceived wobbles weren't really wobbles at all. It was because the mass of Neptune was misunderstood. And once this erroneous value was corrected, the wobbles were gone. I guess what's amazing in all of that is that there was still a planet there where, well, a dwarf planet there where Lowell thought there would be, more or less, even though the mathematics he was using to find it turned out to not be accurate. It's kind of interesting to me. Anyway, the last sort of nail in the coffin for Pluto was in 2005 when Eris is discovered, and this is another dwarf planet that's almost as big as Pluto and has a greater mass than Pluto, and it's out there in Pluto's neighborhood as well. And so this means that Pluto has not been able to clear the neighborhood of other dwarf-type planets, and so this is, again, why Pluto gets, reclassified. I guess Pluto still has a claim to fame. It's the largest dwarf planet out there in our solar system, at least for now. It's certainly possible that other dwarf planets will be discovered, just like Eris was in 2005, and maybe one that's bigger than Pluto. Was this the right move? Well, as a proud resident of Arizona, I'm hurt by it. But, smarter people than I am made these decisions, so I guess I will reluctantly somewhat agree with them. Okay, let's get to how Pluto got its name. So remember, the world was informed that there was this ninth planet on March 13th, 1930. The following day, an 11-year-old girl in England is having breakfast with her grandfather, and her grandfather's reading the newspaper and says, "Oh, wow, they found another planet." And they start talking about this, and the little girl suggests, hey, they should name this new planet Pluto. And she was familiar with mythology. She realized that this name hadn't been used yet. It was a Roman mythology name, like so many of the other planets. So this seemed like a great idea, right? I mean, all the other planets besides Earth, right? All the planets, they're all Roman mythological names. Now, her grandfather wasn't just some random grandfather. He was the librarian at Oxford University, and he had a lot of very close friends who were big-time astronomers. And one of these big-time astronomers, who was a professor at Oxford, the grandfather mentioned this to him and said, hey, this would be a great name for Pluto. And so this astronomy professor cabled Lowell Observatory and said, hey, we've got a great idea for a name for your new planet. And what's interesting is that they'd thrown around a lot of names, but this wasn't one that they'd considered before they got this message from England, and they decided this was a great name. Now, there were certain things that Venetia, the little girl, had not considered that were other reasons why they ended up liking this name. Number one, Pluto, of course, the god of the underworld, and it's way out there, right? And so that worked. And also the first two letters, which are used as the abbreviation for Pluto, PL, are also Percival Lowell's initials. And so they all liked that because of the inspiration that he had and the role he had in all of this. Venetia Burney actually died in 2009 at age 90. I don't know, I haven't been able to find any information on how she felt about the reclassification of Pluto. I read a story where they interviewed her, but this was at the time of the launch of the New Horizons, which was before all of that, at the time that it had been announced. So anyway, there it is. Okay, some more Pluto info. So the diameter of Pluto is just 1,400 miles. So that's like half the width of the continental United States. So it's quite small. In fact, it's 1/6 the size of Earth, but it's also even smaller than our moon. Pluto is only 2/3 the size of our moon. It's also, its mass, it's not super dense, and this is part of Pluto's inability to clear the neighborhood. The mass of Pluto is only 1/6 of Earth's moon. So it's a little bit smaller, but a lot less dense. It's 3.6 billion miles away from the sun. There are 5 known moons of Pluto so far. And Pluto's temperature, it's a balmy negative 387 degrees Fahrenheit. In 2015, the New Horizons, which was launched in 2006, this probe passed close to Pluto. and has had a major impact on our understanding of this now dwarf planet. The photographs from that, which you've seen a lot of in this video, are absolutely stunning. And it's incredible the detail that we have on this object that's so far away from where we are. Well, that's it for Learn with Mr. Lewis. If you liked what you've seen, please like and subscribe. And you can always watch another great Mr. Lewis video here or right here. Thanks again.